All right, welcome everyone to Executive Committee on February 3rd. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Dr. Fisher?
Here.
Mr. Knipp is absent, and Ms. Primer.
Here.
You heard from him?
We did not.
Did you text him about a meeting?
I did not, no.
He has my number as well. I did not hear. All right, motion to excuse Danny Knipp.
Second.
All in favor? Great. David, you should have the agenda in your email if you weren't able to open it on the online version. But do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Okay, all in favor? Oh, wait, sorry, second. One of us. Yeah. One of you pick. They both said it.
Yeah, I'm second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we have minutes from our November 10th meeting to approve.
I did hand change, it says agenda at the bottom, so we'll see minutes in the end.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? I didn't see any updates. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
No problem.
All right. What I was hoping we could talk about today is our priorities as a committee for 2026. I did take off our previous priority of the website and AV upgrades since McSnail is handling that through her mini. What we currently have coming over from last year is our pay equity audit, management audit, and onboarding collaborative tool. I know we had the survey that was sent. David, you did some meetings towards the end of last year. I was hoping Danny would be here so we could talk about what he might want to priority. But I wanted to talk as a group about what might be our priorities for 2026, and then how might we get some community input on our strategies for the year. Thoughts?
So my job, my work is not done. And
Right.
We did have a supplemental report that we shared to some degree. There's a lot of fixing that has to be done, if we want to say that way. But we first have to see what our administration looks like to know and where the fixes are. I mean, it's going to be a different strategy now than we might have done last year. The main goal will be to find out from those administrators how they view themselves running their department. That'll be step number one. And then we can see if that makes sense and fits with what us as people of the village feel suffices, or we should go ahead and work with them on figuring out a different plan. That would be my idea.
You're talking about the hiring of the new village administrator, or when you said managing of departments, you meant department heads, not administrators?
Both, the
Okay.
administrator, how he would manage the department heads, and then the department heads. So it all goes back down to who's gonna run the police department, who's gonna run the village, know how to deal with it.
I think it would be helpful to have some insights shared as we craft those job descriptions and also unpack what the issues are in the village. I know we talked and we put something on the record, and I'm not recalling what it was. But to have some sort of document that as we're going through this process of hiring both of those roles, we have a clear sense of what were some of the issues that we uncovered that this next person would want to tackle, or we would want them to tackle. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to think of what the proper form of that would be.
Mm-hmm. Minna, where did we leave off with the onboarding collaborative tool? I know the solicitor had sent out the thing over there, the packet. And then we also kind of were hoping that the remote desktop was helping with a collaborative tool. What might we want to do this
So-
year?
Yeah, the collaborative tool I haven't worked on at all
Yeah.
because it didn't seem like there was a place for that.
Mhm.
after- Well, we thought that
Yeah, it solved it.
that would
Yeah.
solve it and then it caused more problems.
So I can speak to that a drop. The
Mhm.
new system, which is supposed to be set up once they figure out whatever is the next issue with Microsoft, is to have the Azure cloud.
Azure.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
So Azure cloud through Microsoft, which should give us the secure connection, but also solve all of this for collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So at least you can log into that. once
Google
that's-
Docs doesn't work.
So Google Docs does work, but we're already on the Microsoft system and getting them to talk to each other, as we found when you change the formats and change it. What this would do is every council member will have Outlook and the entire Microsoft Office suite and access to a cloud. So if you have ever dealt with OneDrive or anything like that, it works pretty similar where everything's on that cloud. This is a specific government communities cloud. And it's, again, I cannot explain why it's not working smoothly. I wish I could, I'm not IT familiar enough, but the company that we've been working with is supposed to be setting this up for us. And that collaboration is basically at a standstill and has been grinded to a standstill for 8 weeks at this point. Yeah, no.
So 8 weeks at a standstill, don't love that.
No.
Not blaming you for that, but how do we move forward? Like what is possible next steps for that?
So the problem is that the tenant, there's two issues. There's the tenant and the domain. Microsoft is claiming that they have released both the tenant and the domain, but when CyberClan goes to initiate the government cloud community setup, it says that the domain is not available. And Microsoft, I've spoken to friends in IT who have said that when I said, oh, well, Microsoft, we're waiting to get through to their support system, they kind of smirk and say, good luck with that. There seems to be some issues between Microsoft and Motorola. Motorola is who hosts our body cams and cruiser cams for the police department. Again, it is way above my knowledge and ability. I have engaged in a third-party IT service, which I would like to be more involved in this. They have sent us a contract. I was working on this 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago even. They sent us a contract, which I forwarded to the attorney. The attorney had some specific issues with the language that they had proposed. And I'm still waiting to hear back from them. I can engage with a different company. I just happen to know that this company works with local governments, and the person who I was speaking to is the mayor of Fort Wright, Kentucky. But I don't have to work with them. I can go to another company. But that doesn't necessarily solve the Microsoft issue. That's just
Right, we're just hoping that having another player in the game is going to help us solve the Microsoft
especially
issue.
one that we're paying directly, who's more than just a one-man show, which we've seen one-man shows don't generally.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to either nudge the Fort Wright mayor more, or engage with other people so that we can try to move this forward a little bit more. And I think it would be helpful because I think, once all this stuff is solved, that sounds great. But then we also run into the issues of now you're asking me to install Outlook and Office and all of this stuff on my,
It's not going to be on your computer. It's all cloud-based.
so then I have to access it on my
Correct.
device.
Correct.
Or did you ever look into the tablets?
So I haven't looked into it specifically. I'm kind of curious how much money council wants to spend on something like that.
I think it's worth getting a quote so that we understand, because I have no idea. I don't know if this is a $10,000. year expense?
The annual expense is gonna be, let's say, so 7 times 10 times 12. So what is that, about 1,200 on that, a little less, about $1,000 a year. For it would be, my thoughts are that it should have internet access at all times. So through T-Mobile, we can get it to about $10 a month for a SIM card, and then initial purchase price is gonna be around, again, you don't have to use Apple devices. My opinion is that the iPads are really just far superior to anything else. But we could get Samsung or any of the Google devices. We could get Surfaces. It's really kind of what your all's preference is. If you will have a specific device that you would want to get, we could definitely look into getting those.
I would say what is most cost effective, and also I wouldn't say Apple, not because I don't love Apple, but only because Apple, then you have to set up an Apple ID under the
Right.
Village. That makes it a little bit more complicated. What I would do is to make it simple and like what speaks to each other is to just get either a Chromebook or something that is not an Apple product that easily hosts the Outlook.
Right. So if we're looking at specifically Microsoft, I would recommend looking at Surface tablets. Again, between for $300-400 you can get on the inexpensive side.
Yeah.
And then, but again, I don't want to like say, if you want an Apple and it's going to be the same cost, I would assume give you preference for what you do or do not want.
I would not. I would set an organizational preference.
Okay.
Like from that, I mean, that's
Should belong to the village and pass.
right. It's from the Village, like the
So-
Village services, Dell's, and this.
Right.
And
The
then,
issue is there's 2 issues that I see. One is in able to like the actual using of meaning if you're familiar with a certain tablet, I would want someone it shouldn't be an extra challenge for them. I know not all of our council members are as comfortable with different devices, so I don't want to box them in. But if council as a whole decides we just want one device for everybody knows how to use it, we can definitely do that. And again, like I said, it's about $1,000 a year. The other thing is, I would look at this as something that after 4 years, these are likely going to be at these as a purchase, which comes with, every term of council, you get a tablet like this, and after 4 years, we basically either there's we can sell surplus stuff or give away surplus stuff, anything less than $1,000, or we can sell because they're just after 4 years, these devices are not going to be working that well. Even if they're $2,000 Surface, they're just not going to be working that well.
no, I understand. I think we could put them up to surplus, just so we're not giving them away with any sort of preference.
Right. So that would be the only. But if you all want Surfaces, I would just need we'd have to figure out how to pay for that in appropriations, because we're talking $3,200 through $2,800 that is not otherwise appropriated, and then an additional $1,000 on the phone bill. So
The question is if they're offering free tabs if you sign up and stuff like that.
so they may, but they won't. You won't be able to get a Surface. You'd be getting
The question is, you do get it, and what you
Right.
upgrade to for how much?
right.
You're saying a Surface, not a Samsung? You're saying those are 2 different things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surface is a
And you said
Microsoft.
T-Mobile?
Yeah, so our vendor is T-Mobile that we use for Village Phone Service. Again, you don't have to use what they offer. It generally does pay to go with whatever devices they're offering.
They don't offer a Surface, that's why I'm asking.
So for government accounts, sometimes they do.
Oh, gotcha.
Sometimes they'll have an incentive for a specific device. A lot of, anyway.
Yeah, I think that would be, what I'll do is I will email my buddy Zach and bring it up in finance to see if we can find some funds for this. But I think that makes most sense and gets us one step closer to creating this collaborative environment that helps us work together. Do you disagree?
No, I think that sounds good. I think that once we have that framework in place, we might want to think about, I don't want to create like any extra work for anybody, but like the most effective workflow for us to share instead of like finding everyone's things just because they're in the
Right.
same environment. It's not
Right,
like-
then we would have some work to do around like, what is the SharePoint environment that we all play in? How do we actually store files? How do we understand what's going on? What we were starting to do in the remote desktop, but we'll play again.
Right.
But getting us all on the same thing, I think would be helpful.
And then as far as the onboarding, I do have a draft of sort of like a quick start for council members, not as much for committee members. I wrote it from the perspective of the council member, and I think I dropped it because I was like, well, we're all back on council, and there's no one to onboard, although I guess Becca
Yeah.
kind of thrown under that. But so that's like I have something drafted. I don't know if
Okay.
it's or not.
Yeah, so we did not onboard Brett, right?
No, I mean, not from
He hasn't done any specific onboarding.
That might be helpful to schedule something, and he'll be our little guinea pig to see if it works.
If I may, so it's a topic that our new attorney says that he has a lot of experience in doing, that he's noticed a lot of things with regard to committee work that's outside their scope specifically. And he says that he can put together a brief one for council at our next council meeting. He also has the ability to do like a 2-hour one that's for all the community and everything, the commissioners and committee members that are residents. I like both of those ideas. It's a matter of just scheduling that in. So that may be something different than what you guys are talking about. I'm not in the loop on what you guys are have been discussing, but that's
yeah.
what he has shared.
Yeah, maybe I should reach out to him and see like what he would cover in
Yeah, share what you've been working on, and then also
Yeah.
what he might be,
because
so we're not duplicating,
right,
just like we did with Butler. With
right. So yeah, my thing and Butler's thing are not
no,
wasn't
they
the
were not.
same.
He said they were, but they were not.
That was not what I had in mind. So yeah.
Okay.
So as far as like other priorities for 2026, I don't know if you had anything else in mind. But
I think the only other piece that I had in mind is just, what community shared in what we thought was going to be that special council meeting. It seemed clear there was this need for community input, and just thinking through how we might do that, whether it's through community engagement or, I have a fellow council member over in Deer Park, and they host, I think he does it monthly. It's just meeting at the building, and it's informal, it's posted, it's reoccurring, and like community comes. There's no true set agenda. It's just different council members host once a month. And it's like get to know you and like ask questions so you can get updates on whatever is happening in the village. I don't personally want to host every month, to be clear. But there's 6 of us and there's 12 months. So I was thinking, could we even just do something like 1 month a year? Or there's 3 committees. What if, we hosted as each committee chair, host a community night to sort of get some more community engagement and insight into what the work is that we're doing as a committee, and get their input on whatever it is that we might be doing. So I think that I'd love us to think through strategies of how we can get more community voice in our work in general. That's the only other.
Definitely worth a try. The question is, it's going to work like every other community.
Right, I think that's why it's a hook on, like, each of us have to do our work to invite our communities, right? Like, I got to go up and down Elbrook and invite my neighbors, right? Like, that's the hook. It's not just post and see who comes. Like, to make it worthwhile, we actually have to do some work to actually get people here.
The people that I would go invite are the people that give me feedback already. Right? It's those people that I know and people that root for me and, push me to do what I'm doing. Those people give me feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know what those people want, or if when there's a big issue, I chit chat with them about to get community input from other people is what I think is really what you're trying to accomplish. And by me inviting the people that I anyways get feedback from already,
Right.
it's like,
Yeah, so let's think about it. So maybe the strategy is like, what I want is I thought about it as one way is inviting people to get to know what the different committees do, right? So then that's David inviting your network, and we're asking all the council members to invite their networks to not just, and like maybe March is executive and you're just, what are executives' priorities, right? And we're doing the same thing for community engagement. We're doing the same thing for finance. That's one way to do it. Or we're like asking each council member to host a different month is another way to do it. And in that way, I'm saying, David, invite your network, Minna, invite your network, everybody invite their network. And maybe it's a time for me to actually get more insight into like what everybody's different communities. I don't know. I just think that there's a gap between we're only able to hear from our own individual communities, right? And as a collective, we're missing what the full community is looking for. And that's the thing. So maybe my idea is not the best one, but like, let's think of ideas of how we might get some deeper community input into what it is that we're doing.
Definitely sounds like it's like a low risk way to try and get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to make it, what are some, it doesn't have to be this full event that we're putting on, right? It's just low stakes, low input, or not low input. I want high input, right? But I want low pressure prototype to see if we can actually get some different crowds in to get different perspectives. And so folks get an insight into what we're doing. So it's beneficial for them and us. And we can bring this up next month as well. We don't have to have an answer tonight, but this is what I wanted to think about because I feel like this is the big piece that we continually run up against, and we're often making decisions. And I think as a collective, this is a struggle, not just for executive. Were there any other priorities that either of you had in mind for 2026?
just getting back to that point we were talking about earlier, I do not want to be in the position of writing people's work requirements or what they have to do.
Job description?
Job
Yeah.
description. My point was to make sure that they're fulfilling their job description and figuring it out. So it was very hard to do that last year when no one had a job description, and then that was my point of the interviews, was to find out what do you look at yourself doing? What is do you view your own job description? That was one of my interviews were last year. As soon as there's a new administrator, then we could continue going back and see is everybody fulfilling their job description, and if not, or they themselves say something that is not close to that, or they say the right thing but it's not being fulfilled, that's where we should get involved and try to do that. That was just to clarify my stand about my goal is.
Okay, helpful. So how do we continue the process once a new administrator is there to ensure that we're not falling into the same trap? Okay.
That is our goal. I'm saying
Yeah.
we're gonna have to get to that goal.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to work on it as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you where there's some loopholes where stuff has to be worked on, and a lot of it
Yep.
could be and would be put into place when there's someone that's actually being forceful and making sure that everybody is doing their job.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it would be helpful to think about strategies in the interim spot and then also with the new.
That's the hardest part.
All right, anything else?
I can speak to within the scope of executive committee being about legislation and recommendations, or specifically legislation coming to council. I'm aware of a number of pieces of legislation that are being brought up by, for instance, the maintenance department has brought up some requests in conjunction with the zoning and planning commission. We're looking at wanting to do a specific, looking at a couple of things. One is specifically around rewriting the rules around setbacks. I say that the majority of the things that they're getting are requests for variances around setbacks, it's like 4 feet or whatever. So they would like the executive to be taking a look at that specifically, what would be appropriate. We are going to ask council to change up what those rules are on setbacks. There's also been discussions about bundling, if we're going to start getting into zoning, bundling a bunch of other things in there. Some of it is we know we've discussed in the past topics about rezoning some of the streets and what the intentions of that would be and what the consequences of that would be. I think those are a good place for those kind of things to be discussed in executive, different opinions. Some of them I do not agree with, or think that there's a better way of doing it to address some of the zoning concerns. For instance, around group homes that has come up. It seems to me the big issue is that when there's fraud going on, folks aren't really registered properly as a group home. You're going to see a lot of problems. So some would argue, well, let's just ban group homes in the zoning ordinance. And of course, there's other ways of going about it by saying just make sure that we have heavy penalties for folks that are saying that they're a group home when they're not really legitimately certified to be operating the way that they're operating. That kind of stuff being put into legislation is what's being asked for. Would be put before executive potentially going into your 2026 agenda.
So zoning and planning is going to come with those recommendations, or who is coming with those recommendations to
It would be
executive?
the administration.
Great. Anything else?
That piece about onboarding with regard to their scope. So discernment of whether the committee chairs would think it'd be better for that to be in a council meeting with the council onboarding, or with respect to commissions and all the many volunteers that we have in the community, having it be a separate meeting. My understanding from our attorney is that when we're having these kind of things out in the community, we can have all our council members there. It's not considered to be a council meeting. So we can all meet without it being a decision-making body.
I don't actually understand what you just said, because we would still have a meeting, a public meeting, right? I don't understand what you're trying
So
to get
he's
at.
the one that's the expert on this. And he said that you can do a 2-hour community thing that has all the council members there.
Right, you've gone back to
Right.
onboarding, what Minna
Right.
talked about earlier. Okay, I think we were clear on that. And we need to catch up with what he has planned. And we in no way were saying that we were going to facilitate everybody's onboarding and the committee's onboarding. We were just tasked with creating an onboarding experience and unpacking that, since none of us got a proper onboarding.
Right.
But Minna, you already added that to your list to reach out to him, connect with what he's got planned, what he could do from a council and a committee perspective and a community perspective, and then catch up with what we had and unpacking some of the learning since he's new.
Excellent.
Cool. All right. Anything else before we adjourn? No? All right. Motion to, oh, no, hold on, I closed windows too early. Next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 10th at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Great. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
I just want to announce that I will not be at the March 10th